So now we come to the seventh misconception, and that is that English language learners acquire English through exposure and interaction with others. While this is true to an extent, it does not provide enough support for the student to be able to reach their potential of learning and to fully participate in the classroom. English language learners cannot fully learn this language just by talking to people and listening to others speak the language, speak English. Like it says, the first language acquisition occurs during the years before formal education. And so when they're learning this new language, they may have limited expression abilities in their second language, but not a limited ability to think. So what this means, they don't necessarily know how to express themselves adequately in their new language because they don't know how to, but that doesn't mean that they're not thinking, actively thinking and coming up with thoughts that they want to express. So all this to say, English language learners really benefit from explicit instruction rather than just exposure and interaction with others, because they need to learn how to adequately express what they're thinking, as mentioned earlier. Misconception 8, and our last one, is that errors are problematic and should be avoided. This is so not true not only with English language learners, but in education in general. Errors are natural, and it is natural for students to make them while learning. They are a sign of progress, and they can vary depending on the characteristic of the ELL's first language. Code switching is really common, and it's not a sign of confusion. So whenever you see your student code switching, either in writing or speaking, don't freak out, but accept it and be encouraged that they're trying and that they're learning and connecting ideas among languages. Code switching is just the simple process of combining two languages in one sentence or phrase, or going back and forth between the two languages. So if the student is speaking and they're speaking in English and then they go back to Spanish, if that's their native language, and they use them kind of interchangeably, that is what code switching is. To conclude our presentation, here are some main points that we want you to go away with. Children, namely English language learners, learn best from explicit instruction. So that's really, really important when you're teaching these ELLs. Teachers must understand the contribution of learner variables to the second language acquisition process. We need to examine the linguistic and cultural assumptions underlying the instructional choices. So why are we teaching the way that we're teaching? Is it really benefiting our students and what they're bringing to the classroom culturally and linguistically? We need to tailor our instruction to make sure that it is scaffolded and really personalized for our students to best learn. And finally, we want you to consider all possible alternative explanations to a student's struggles before thinking a child has a disability. So like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, things like code switching and not being able to express themselves and unwillingness to respond, that is not a sign of a disability, but it's a sign of the student being challenged in the second language acquisition. And so we just need to, before we assume that our student has a disability, we need to remember that the student might just need to be working through the language acquisition in his or her mind, and that there's nothing wrong with the child other than not knowing how to effectively express themselves. So that's all for today. I hope that you were able to learn of these misconceptions of second language acquisition, and that you're now aware of them, and you're aware of how to not fall into these traps as teachers. So hope you have enjoyed our presentation and hope you learned a lot. Thank you so much.